Now, as I said just a moment ago, there are probably a lot of people watching right now who don't really know much about Bolivia and kind of sort of don't care, and I don't blame you. Americans, most of you are Americans, are conditioned to not care that much about foreign countries, and that's something you'll have to, if you're genuinely interested in leftist politics, learn to move out of. I want to explain to you, if I can, why what just happened in Bolivia is so PogChamp. That's the technical term, of course, you know. Now, they didn't know what a PogChamp was back in the days of Marx and Lenin, but if they had, they would have described it as such. Folks, Latin America. Here, help me out, okay? I want to see, this is my main issue with how lefties describe these issues. It's that it's an in club, you know? When I listen to lefties talk about the good things Bolivia or Venezuela or fucking Vietnam or whatever have done, it's always this super insular, you already kind of need to know the gist of everything to know why this is good situation. Let me explain to you. See, Bolivia, and much of Latin America in general, is caught in an incredibly difficult socio-political position with regards to the different interests of different economic and ethnic classes in each of their respective countries. In Bolivia, in particular, there is a very large population of indigenous people and a somewhat smaller, but nonetheless robust population of, well, not indigenous people. You have to remember that Latin America was, for most of the existence of humanity, occupied by one type of person, ethnically speaking, that is to say, not fucking European colonizers. And then suddenly, that wasn't the case. And what was once a incredibly diverse tapestry of non-colonized countries, nations, ethnicities, and cultures very suddenly became, at least comparatively, a large mass of people defending themselves against the encroach of European imperialism. You know how the transatlantic slave trade was, what's the historical term? Not pog. Very bad. Actually horrible. The slaves that got shipped up to North America had it comparatively good. The slaves that were shipped down south, not. Holy shit, not. The main reason for that was because of the different types of crops that were grown in North and South America. Now, I don't remember the specifics of it. I remember reading this in a book back when I was in university, but the essential gist of it was that the crops that were grown up in America, cotton mostly, the way the cycle of cotton production necessitated workflow meant that it was incentivized to keep your slaves alive, whereas sugar and other types back in Latin America at that time did not necessarily, in an economic sense, require the longevity and health of the slaves who were brought over to tend to them. Latin America, even more so than America, is a part of the world that is steeped in blood, just fucking drenched in it. And as history progressed and the countries got slightly less terrible, you find yourself in a very awkward position where these countries that are modernizing, ostensibly, have two fundamental castes, one of which is the sort of collective remnants of the indigenous cultures that lived in Latin America before the colonizers, and one of them are the combination white and mixed people who made up sort of the upper class. Bolivia has felt this distinction for the entirety of its life. And for the longest time, you're not going to believe this, folks, what a coincidence, it was the white people who had all the wealth and land. I know. It's really just a roll of the dice there, how that worked out. The descendants of the colonizers who 400 years ago would have taken their land by force, well, actually, probably like up until very recently taken their land by force, but now take it through the cementing of property relations and through the hereditary passage of property from one generation to another, still had a tremendous amount of power in Bolivia. And for a very long time, Bolivia was a not a great country. Just, economically, civilly, just wasn't that great. The main problem being that the third or so of the population that controlled everything didn't really care about making life good for the 2/3. So, yeah. And I am simplifying this massively here because we're centering our sort of our big W around a man called Evo Morales. Evo Morales was a socialist, is a socialist, and one lucky year, he was elected. He was the first indigenous president of Bolivia, and he ran on a campaign of representation for the indigenous community of Bolivia on environmentalism, on workers' rights, and on socialism. And Evo Morales was extremely pog. Evo Morales was, and I say this as somebody who's generally extremely critical of state power. I mean, anybody who's watched my channel knows I'm not somebody who goes around jerking off people like Lenin or anything. Like, I'm generally very critical of these people. Evo Morales is fucking incredible. Holy shit. That dude raised literacy rates, challenged banks and corporations, built infrastructure in both the wealthy and in the less wealthy, typically indigenous communities. He fought back against corporate corruption. He won election after election after election. He kept winning by huge margins because, as it turns out, if you let indigenous people vote, they tend to vote for, this is why being able to vote's important, fellas. They tend to vote for people who represent their interests. Now, there were people who didn't like Evo Morales, the Mulders. Now, there are two central claims that underpin the criticism of Evo Morales. Two central criticisms. The first of which is that he has created an environment of division and contention between the majority of the population in Bolivia and the property owners, the wealthy, and the business owners. And the second contention is that he rigged the elections. This is a half-truth. Actually, I'd say more like an eighth of a truth, more maybe a 16th of a truth. The truth of the matter is that in every election Evo Morales ran in, he won brilliantly. He fucking crushed it. He fucking demolished it. However, after the Constitution of Bolivia was ratified, a new updated constitution, Evo Morales argued that because a new constitution had been ratified, his term limit should be reset. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, imagine you're 10 years old, and you have a rule. And the rule is you get to have one candy a day, And then you have your candy one day, and at 6 p.m. you argue with your mom for more candy, and she says, okay, from now on you can have 2 candy a day. And you go, okay, well, you just set that rule, so I'm going to go ahead and have 2 candy. And she says, well, you already had 1 candy. And he's like, okay, sure, well, the rule's been reset. We're starting from right here. I get 2 candy a day. I'm going to have 2 candy. Evo Morales kind of sort of did that. And whether you think that's terrible, I mean, when he had that didn't mean that he just became president again. That meant he ran for election again, which he won. And that and another sort of extension of his ability to run, another extension of his term limit, after there was some senatorial fuckery when it came to their belief that it was a human right of Bolivians to vote for whoever they wanted, aka term limits shouldn't exist. Whatever the case may be, he was massively popular, and everything he did was wiggle room legal, but he did make some people angry, and after his 4th election, we had, as a Russian, it sounds fucked up to me. Yeah, well, it really depends on how much you believe the system should be bent to support the will of the people. It depends on how much you favor institutionalism. So for Evo Morales and for the people who follow him, you have to understand they had lived in desperate poverty with no hope for their entire lives. And finally, a hero arises to bend the government to actually support the people. and then you're going to get a little thing like term limits in the way of that. You're going to reset the whole process just on account of that. That's up to you, whether or not you think that's legitimate or not. As far as I'm concerned, and this is my personal opinion, as long as you're running for election every time, I don't mind that much. As long as you're running in fair elections, I don't mind that much. That's my personal opinion. Term limits are not a necessary component of the executive branch of a government. As long as these elections are fair and representative of the interests of the people, which they seem to be, that's fine, whatever. The issue is, made one too many people mad. We had a little oopsie-daisy coup. Do you remember? Early on my channel, we actually covered the Bolivian coup. Remember? And the essential gist of it was that following his most recent election win, they claimed that he had actually cheated due to, let's get into it, a pretty complicated quirk of how Bolivian elections are tracked over the course of the electoral count. And they said, oh, this is illegitimate, even though, hey, turns out everything was above book. Everything was on book above board. Turns out, you know, it wasn't just Bolivian whites and corporatists who did this. There were international organizations who were like, I don't know about that one, Mr. Evo. That one doesn't look very good. Turns out it was all good. He won the election. What are you going to do? But the coup happened anyway. Evo Morales stepped down at tank gunpoint. What's the tank barrel point? And we have had sort of 1 year of interim government led by a fascist. What's her name? Janice? This is a white woman, anti-indigenous white woman. She said, Añez, thank you. Janine Añez, thank you. And she has said that the indigenous people of Bolivia are devilish, that the country should be run on the Bible, because of course Christianity being the religion of the colonizers, not so much for the indigenous people. Yeah, she had girl boss power, essentially. Yeah, she called them satanic, and she pulled out a Bible at the inauguration. Phenomenal, just fantastic stuff. We had protests. Protesters died. There were supporters of Evo Morales who were dragged through the streets by their hair. Just a great, phenomenal time, you know, tremendous time. A lot of people, even here in the States, said that wasn't a coup. They said, oh, well, Evo Morales cheated. Listen, if you believe Evo Morales was illegitimate in his circumnavigation of the term limits, I think that's a fine criticism to make. Maybe it would have been better if Evo Morales had instead had a successor run in his party rather than himself. In fact, it almost certainly would have, you know, fixed the problem. But whatever the case may be, what happened happened. It was a fucking coup. And just yesterday, we got a shot at another election. And hey, baby, look at that. The party of Evo Morales won with not just the majority, the plurality of the votes. 52.5% off exit polls. These are just exit polls, not the official results. But the opposition has already resigned. It's over. It's over, baby. Bolivia's democratic process is unironically better than the United States of America's, because they have like a recurring set of elections that are meant to whittle down the percentage vote to consolidate it to just one legitimate winner. But with a person getting more than 50% in round one, that's it, baby. It's over. It's done. They won. They fucking won. They did it. They did it. And this means a continuation of the will of Evo Morales. This means a continuation of the interests of the people. This is a fair, free election. This means that socialism will once more reign in Bolivia, a challenge to the established power of corporations and of those who would see Bolivia a perpetual racial caste country. This is, without a doubt, a massive W. How long till this gets fucked up? I see Sneaky asking in chat. I don't know. Could happen any day now. But what matters, and this is very, very important, we live now today In an era of international communication, which was not present during the more prolific era of American interventionism in Latin America. America loves getting involved in Latin America. They love it. It's a fetish for them. The CIA the CIA upper echelon, they cannot come while they fuck their wives unless they are able to smell the soil they have picked up from the gardens of a Latin American embassy just after a successful coup. Okay, they have to. Oh yeah, I remember when they elected that guy. Ugh, I can smell the boot prints of mercenaries we paid 3 times the wages of American soldiers. We love doing this shit to them. And the reason for this is particularly clear. Obviously, America doesn't want socialism to spread. Why would America want socialism to spread? America makes its money by forcing smaller, weaker countries into unfavorable business relationships with American companies. That's the entire model. That's the whole thing we do. You think America produces its obscene wealth on its own? Where do we get all the materials from? We have to bully smaller countries into providing them for us, or they face consequences. If their leaders don't like that, they get a new leader. And it turns out that socialists are by far and away the most resistant political demographic when it comes to opposing American business interests. So they don't want socialists in power. That said, we must remember that the court of public opinion is relevant even for the United States of America. Remember, do we have any really old people in chat? Do you remember post 9/11, pre-Iraq war? Do you guys remember what happened? Do you remember the insane, unrelenting campaign of pro-nationalist military gung-hoism against Saddam Hussein? Do you remember that? It was like month after month of every time you turned on the TV, the television shows, the sitcoms were making jokes about 9/11 and how we got to show them boys what's up. The news stations were nonstop talking about how Saddam Hussein was a legendary time. Everything, the whole American media apparatus had been completely hijacked. Completely hijacked. Every commercial, every show, every news article, all of it. All of it priming us to get into the Iraq War. Would they have needed to do all of that if America could just do whatever it wanted without the support of its own population? The answer's no. Even America needs its population to be more or less behind what it's doing, at least somewhat. Saddam Hussein was a brutal dictator? Yeah, sure, but he didn't have shit to do with 9/11, and that doesn't justify the Iraq War. This is completely unrelated. But Vietnam, though? Yeah, we pulled out of Vietnam because of a lack of domestic popular opinion. Because it was unpopular. Didn't some Saudis do it? Yes, Saudi Arabia was the one who funded. Anyway. In an era where American public opinion is important to determining how effectively we can engage in imperialism, the overwhelming victory of socialism in Bolivia is a defense for them. It does make it easier for them. But already, I guarantee you, there are already analysts at the CIA headquarters typing up some girl boss article about how Janine Áñez was a champion of women's rights in Latin America, and how the victory of the Mas Party over her is a return to old world patriarchal values in Bolivia. There are already people at the Associated Press writing about how this is a suspicious election. There are already people at the New York Post who are getting ready to type up something about how the newest elected leader is a satanic pedophile. Already the media apparatus is working to undo that which the Bolivian people have decided they want. So look, folks, take the W, okay? This is a massive win for the Bolivian people. But that says non-official data. Look at the corner. That is because it is the exit polling, which is reflective now, because this picture was taken yesterday, of the actual results. This is what it is, within a few percentage points. But it is an overwhelming victory. Take the W. It's a big W, okay? Big W, okay? You can hold it up like that. Hide your whole body behind it, you know? But remember, there are people who stand to make billions of dollars by overturning the results of this election. And this would not be the first time the results of a democratically elected socialist victory in a Latin American country were overturned to support business interests. Bolivia has a very large, as it turns out, what is it? Lithium, right? A lithium set of deposits within it. Very necessary in the coming age of green energy. We need them batteries. But you know, there is one element more present in Bolivia than lithium. And do you know what it is? Hopium. It's hopium. It's hopium for the future. And we're all taking a deep huff of it today. Hopefully the Bolivian people are able to enjoy a long and prosperous presidential term where the needs of the many are met, where the interests of corporations are kept in check, and where the literacy continues to skyrocket, the poverty continues to plummet, food remains plentiful for those in the streets, and those who believe in love and dignity and respect for all mankind are free to live happily and contentedly. Historically, that is not how it plays out. But we only have to win once, don't we?